1 year ago, CBS's historic new soap opera Beyond the Gates began production, and now one of its breakout stars has revealed which scene kicked off filming. Ariel Pripati shared behind-the-scenes stills and reflection from the first episode on Instagram, writing, "1 year ago we started filming Beyond the Gates. The very first scene we shot was a big argument scene between me and my on-screen dad, Timon Durrett. Felt like we got shot out of a cannon, and what a beautiful journey it's been. Here's to 100 more years." Pripati's co-stars took to the comment section to share their support for her and the show. Durrett said, "Day 1. Scene 1. Wow, how time flies. Smiling face with smiling eyes, smiling face with smiling eyes, smiling face with smiling eyes." Sean Freeman wrote, "Clapping hands medium dark skin tone, clapping 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 hands medium dark skin tone, fire." Marquita Goings, "Fire, fire, fire," with David Lamy free batting. "Amazing fire." Beyond the Gates is the first new daytime soap opera to be greenlit for production since NBC's Passions in 1999. The series marked the return for Procter & Gamble to the genre and reintroduction of the NAACP as a production partner in daytime storytelling. The series is also the hour-long daytime drama centered on a primarily black cast. Prior, the network soap to focus on similar representation was the half-hour drama NBC's Generations in 1990. Fans took to the comment section to show their support for Pripati and the soap opera in general. One user wrote, "Wonderful scenes. Naomi is more like her dad in many ways than she wants to admit. She is my favorite character on the show. You're so talented, and I hope you get an Emmy next year." A second user wrote, "Proud of you each and every day. Watching you live the dream you've talked about for years still makes me emo, even a year later," with a third user adding, "A whole year? I cannot believe. So proud of you, babes." Viewers can revisit the first episode and every scene since on Paramount Plus or Pluto TV's dedicated 24/7 Beyond the Gates Fast channel. The hum of the studio was a sound I'd grown accustomed to over the years, a low, industrial thrum of air conditioning fighting a losing battle against the heat of the lights, the whispered conferences of directors and script supervisors, and the faint, ever-present smell of dust and coffee. But on the first day of filming Beyond the Gates, the hum felt different. It was charged, pregnant with a potential I don't think any of us truly understood. We were just a group of actors, writers, and crew, embarking on another job, another story. We had no idea we were about to step into a world that would, for a time, become a shared reality for millions. The memory of filming that very first scene is etched into my mind with a clarity that time has done little to dim. It wasn't a grand, effects-laden spectacle. It was, on the page, deceptively simple. My character, Dr. Eris Thorne, arrives at the imposing, neo-Gothic mansion known as Blackwood House for the first time. He gets out of his car, looks up at the facade, and approaches the door. That was it. No dialogue, no monsters, no shimmering portals to other dimensions. Just a man and a house. Yet, in that simplicity lay the entire foundation of the show. I remember the car they'd found for me, a battered, forest green Volvo estate that looked like it had weathered 1,000 English winters. It was a character in itself, a symbol of Eris's pragmatic, academic world, soon to be utterly dismantled. The director, the brilliant and intensely focused Alara Vance, pulled me aside before the first take. Her words were not about grand motivations or deep backstory. She simply said, "Remember, Eris, you don't believe in ghosts. You believe in rot, in faulty wiring, in the power of suggestion. Let the audience believe for you. Your skepticism is our greatest asset." So, that's what I held on to as I sat in the driver's seat, the camera rig mounted to the hood, poised to capture my first glimpse of Blackwood. The call for action came not as a shout, but as a quiet, focused command. I drove the Volvo down the gravel lane, the crunch of the stones a percussive rhythm of arrival. I remember the physical sensation most vividly, the way the steering wheel felt in my hands, slightly cool and worn smooth. I pulled to a stop, put the car in park, and killed the engine. The sudden silence was profound, broken only by the ticking of the cooling engine and the distant call of a crow. Then came the moment, the door opened. I swung my legs out, planted my feet on the gravel, and stood up. The camera was on a dolly, slowly pushing in on me as I turned to face the house. And oh, what a house it was! Blackwood wasn't a set, not really. It was a real, half-derelict manor house in the wilds of Scotland, and it had a presence. It wasn't just old, it was heavy, as if the stones themselves were saturated with forgotten histories and quiet sorrow. The Gothic turrets speared a leaden sky, and the ivy crawling up the walls looked less like a plant and more like a possessive, verdant vein system. Alara's direction echoed in my head. Don't believe. So, as Heiress Thorne, I looked up at Blackwood House, and I did not see a haunted mansion. I saw a fascinating architectural project. I saw a damp problem in the east wing, a likely colony of Deathwatch beetle in the oak beams. My face, I hoped, was a mask of professional assessment, tinged with a weary academic's curiosity. I adjusted my glasses, a prop that would become a signature gesture, a small, physical tick to ground the character in reality. I was building a wall of logic, brick by brick, and the performance was in the construction of that wall, knowing full well the show was about its spectacular, terrifying demolition. The next part of the scene was the walk to the door. It was a longer walk than it seemed on the monitor, maybe 30 or 40 paces across the uneven gravel. We did it again and again. Alara was a perfectionist, and rightly so. She wanted the sound of the footsteps, the specific crunch and shift, to be just right. She wanted the camera angle to feel slightly off-kilter, using a low-angle shot to make the house loom even larger, more dominant. On one take, she had me pause halfway and glance at a particular, grotesquely carved downspout, a detail most viewers would never consciously notice, but which added to the subconscious texture of unease. During one of these pauses, as I stood there in the damp air, a genuinely unscripted thing happened. A mist began to roll in from the nearby moors, tendrils of white coiling around the base of the house, swallowing the lower hedges. It was pure, serendipitous magic. The cinematographer, without a word from Alara, adjusted the shot, and we kept rolling. That mist became a part of the show's visual language, that ethereal, encroaching ambiguity. In that moment, the line between Heiress's reality and our own began to blur. I wasn't just acting a reaction to a spooky house. I was genuinely feeling the chill, the isolation, the quiet, imposing weight of the place. The house was doing the acting for me. Finally, I reached the massive, oak front door, studded with iron. My hand, as heiress, reached out for the wrought iron ring that served as a knocker. This was another tiny moment Alara obsessed over. "Don't just grab it," she said. "Hesitate. Your hand should almost recoil from the cold of the metal. It's your first physical contact with the house. Make it count." So I did. My fingers hovered for a beat, then closed around the cold, rough iron. The sensation was jarringly real. I lifted the heavy knocker and let it fall. The sound it made wasn't the sharp, polite rap of a normal door. It was a dull, resonant thud, a sound that seemed to be absorbed by the wood rather than echo from it, a sound that felt less like an announcement and more like a disturbance. And that's where the first scene ended. Cut. The spell was broken. The crew erupted into motion, resetting for the next angle, the next shot, the door opening from my point of view. But I stayed there for a moment, my hand still resting on the cold iron, the ghost of that thud still vibrating in the air. I felt a peculiar sense of dislocation. The intense focus required for those few minutes of filming had been all-consuming. For that brief time, I was Heiress Thorne, and Blackwood House was a real, tangible mystery. Walking back to my trailer during the lunch break, the ordinary world felt strangely muted. The craft services table, laden with sandwiches and pasta salad, seemed absurdly mundane against the backdrop of what we were trying to create. I sat alone, going over my lines for the next scene. The first meeting with Evelyn, the caretaker played by the formidable Imogen Shaw, but my mind kept drifting back to that door, that knock, that silence that followed. The significance of that first scene only became apparent months later, when the show had aired and taken on a life of its own. Fans would dissect it frame by frame. They noted the way the shadows seemed to move independently in one of the upper windows, a trick of the light and a passing crew member, I assure you. They analyzed my expression, claiming to see a flicker of premonition in my eyes that I never intentionally put there. They invested that simple arrival with a mythology that we, the creators, had only begun to sketch. In retrospect, that scene was a masterclass in establishing the show's core themes without a single word of exposition. It was about the collision of worlds, the modern, rational world of Eris Thorne, represented by a sensible car and his tweed jacket, crashing into the ancient, unknowable world of Blackwood. It was about scale, the insignificance of one man against the imposing weight of history and legacy. Most importantly, it was about anticipation. By denying the audience any immediate horror, by making them wait and watch a man simply look at a house, we built a tension that was far more potent than any jump scare could ever be. We were teaching the audience how to watch our show, to look closely, to listen intently, to feel the dread in the silence between the sounds. Years later, I sometimes watch that scene again. I see the younger version of myself, the slight nervous tension in my shoulders that wasn't entirely acting, the deliberate pace of my walk. I can still feel the Scottish damp seeping through my costume, smell the faint, fungal scent of decaying leaves, and hear the profound quiet after the engine died. It was the beginning of a journey that would take Eris Thorne and all of us to places we could never have imagined that first day. We thought we were just telling a story about a haunted house. We didn't realize we were building a gateway, and in filming that very first scene, we were, all of us, taking that first, tentative step beyond the gate. Spoilers from Monday, November 17th to Friday, November 21st. Leslie makes Winterfest an emotional event. Eva is forced to answer some pretty tough questions, and Vernon and Sharon's meeting isn't as private as they think. Plus, Carlton presents Nicole with an offer she might not be able to refuse. Read on for more drama ahead in Fairmont Crest. Kat turns to an unexpected source for guidance. Bill issues a warning to Jacob. Danny and Andre decide to make a major investment. Leslie's involvement in Winterfest stirs emotions with some old friends. Beyond the Gates spoilers for Tuesday, November 18th. Eva and Isaiah's connection deepens. Ted unexpectedly becomes a shoulder to cry on. Smitty and June have an overdue heart-to-heart, while Samantha's punishment causes discomfort for her entire family. Vernon and Sharon meet under watchful eyes. Kat and Martin's feud hits a boiling point. Eva has some tough questions to answer from her dad. Danny and Andre receive an important delivery, then make a declaration that will affect their future. Leslie tries to extort another Dupree. Martin chooses a side during a sibling rivalry. Shanice puts Leslie on notice. Naomi deflects Bill's questions about the state of her marriage while having to extend an apology to Haley. Ted helps an ailing Peaches out. Beyond the Gates spoilers for Friday, November 21st. Anita doesn't mince words with both Thomas women. Tyrell shocks his dads with his choice for the future. Nicole receives an offer from Carlton. Martin seeks some much-needed advice from his grandfather. Vernon makes plans for another clandestine date.